Sarasota, the perfect city to vacation to in Florida. On today's video, we're going to learn why Sarasota is the best travel destination for you if you're visiting Florida. The popular Ringling Museum is quite literally across from the airport. The Sarasota Bradenton International Airport is a small airport. It's not this giant congested mess. It's easy to catch your Uber. It's easy to find your Uber. It's a very simple, small-sized airport, but still big enough to have flights to all the international airports in large cities like New York, St. Louis. The drive from the Sarasota Airport to downtown Sarasota is only 10 minutes. You hop off your plane, and in 11 minutes, you are walking on the streets of downtown Sarasota. That right there makes the Sarasota Airport one of the most adequately located airports of any large city in Florida. If you want to go from the airport to the beaches, you can accomplish this in 16 minutes, especially during the summer when there's no traffic. In comparison, from the Tampa Airport to Clearwater Beach is minimum a 40-minute drive over 20 miles long. And that's now in the slow part of the year. Fort Myers Airport to Fort Myers Beach will take you about 45 minutes, and that is now in the slow season. In the wintertime, that drive can take you an hour 15. Miami International to South Beach is about 25 minutes on a good day. So this Uber driving has really given me an incredibly new window into what people think about Florida when they travel here, what they like about Florida, and most importantly, how they compare the city of Sarasota to other destinations like Tampa and Miami. And overwhelmingly, the biggest things that people tell me when they compare Sarasota to other cities is that the water clarity on the beach is better. The commute time from the airport is a fraction. Many people tell me that the size and congestion of the Tampa metropolitan area and the airport means that traveling into Tampa and getting from Tampa to a beach, if the traffic is bad, has taken people upwards of an hour and a half. And after flying on an airplane, you don't want to sit in a taxi for another hour and a half to get to the beach, resort, or hotels. You kind of just want to be there because you've already been on an airplane. Another thing that people tell me is that compared to Southwest Florida, they consider the beaches muddy and nasty, where up here in Sarasota, the beaches are clear. In fact, the only place that you're going to find nicer beaches in Sarasota is going to be in the Florida Panhandle, but the water temperature there is considerably cooler, as well as that there are no international airports in the Florida Panhandle. Now, I know the people in Panama City Beach are going to say, we have an international. The problem is that it only has flights to like Atlanta, Nashville, and a few cities in the South. And most people, when they're going to Florida, are not going to take a connecting flight to a smaller airport. If you don't have a large international airport, you're out of the ball game. And that's the problem with the Florida Panhandle. Besides the fact that the water temperature is just too cold. So yes, the Florida Panhandle does have better looking beaches, but people are going to want to go for a swim, and it is far too cold in the Florida Panhandle. Only during the summertime is the water temperature up there decent, and then by then you're packed with people from Louisiana and Texas, and who the crap wants to go to the beach next to those people? I sure wouldn't. And don't get me wrong, that's still a world above the Mississippi, Alabama people that also go to this part of Florida. Most tourists from the Northeast and large cities, they don't want to smell these people. Now, if you're doing a driving road trip during the summer, then that changes everything. Under those circumstances, the Florida Panhandle would definitely be a better retreat for a quiet road trip. But we're talking about flying into Florida, which is what most people are doing when they're coming to the Sunshine State. And even if they're driving on 75 or 95, the same rules apply. People really don't want to end up in large congested cities. They want a place that's practical, and Sarasota really matches that profile. On the other coast, you still have West Palm Beach. Their airport is very greatly located as well, but it is a much larger international airport, and a lot of people are intimidated by large airports. They like a smaller, easier in and out airport. Jacksonville, Florida also has an airport somewhat close to the water. The problem is, well, first of all, it's Jacksonville. Nobody wants to vacation in a place that's scary. Number two, Jacksonville's water is way too cold. And three, Jacksonville's water is always murky, so it cannot really compete with South Florida. For those reasons, a lot of people that have visited Miami, West Palm Beach, Tampa, Southwest Florida, people that commonly vacation in Florida, when I talk to them on my Uber rides, they're telling me that Sarasota really is the most practical place to vacation to for the simplicity of where the airport is located. Many years back, Southwest Florida competed with Sarasota because Southwest Florida coastlines, while the water may not be as clear, were somewhat beautiful in natural settings. Unfortunately, Hurricane Ian changed all that. Fort Myers Beach was completely destroyed and it is still recovering. The amount of contamination in the water is even starting to kill the fish and wildlife. They're still finding entire cars in the Gulf of Mexico, and that's not exactly what people want to see when they go to the beach. The city of Naples, while beautiful, has had the pier destroyed by Hurricane Ian. It has a notorious reputation of being an extraordinarily snobby city, and of course there's no international airports in Naples. Now, Naples continues to be a top destination for people who have private airplanes and fly into the Naples airport, but even then, if the Naples Pier, the city's most iconic place, is still unfinished since the hurricane, there really isn't much incentive to go to Naples. And the water clarity was bad before Hurricane Ian, but since Hurricane Ian, there hasn't been too many days where you can say the water actually looks nice in Naples or anywhere in Southwest Florida. Thus, Sarasota really is the clear choice for people vacationing in the Southwest Florida who don't want to deal with the water clarity issues or the contamination in the water. We all know that Siesta Key has been named the best beach in the United States by several magazines. Personally, I think it's a great tourist destination, but Siesta Key has a few downsides. For one, it is wide open. There's no shade. It's just one giant stretch of sand, and many people who are traveling with their families are looking for a beach that's a little bit more secluded. Maybe there's a little bit more shade and more access to utilities. In that case, South Lido Key is exceptional because there are trees right up against the sand. In other words, you can be in the shade and still be in the water. And that right there gives Sarasota a few beach options, not just the famous Siesta Key. Lido Key is also, for the most part, one giant strand of sand, and that's where we're driving to right now. We're leaving the St. Armand Circle. Behind us is the famous Moat Aquarium, which is being rebuilt by the University Mall. Let's not forget that shopping in the Sarasota University Mall is also a must. Lido Key here is wide open sand, and that is a lot of fun, but it's also not the type of beach everybody wants to go to, especially if they have some type of physical disability. On the good end, if you just keep driving straight down this road, there is a much more accessible and less popular beach at the southern end of Lido Key that is definitely more wheelchair accessible and much more friendly for families. There's even a playground there. There's bathrooms. It's very accessible. It's not like Siesta Key or Lido Key Beach. There's just wide open stretches of sand with nowhere to hide from the brutal sun. But there's a few large resorts on Lido Key, which means that if your hotel's not too far away, then perhaps you can go without some of those amenities. During the summertime and off-season in Sarasota, prices drop, traffic is reduced, and the water becomes warm enough to swim. And that makes Sarasota a great destination for summer vacations. A lot of people only snowboard in Florida, but they forget that the best time to be in Florida, especially if your vacation isn't the wintertime, it's actually the summertime, where you can enjoy lower hotel rates, you can enjoy much less traffic congestion, and of course, water that's warm enough to swim. Clearly, when it comes to water temperature, places like Miami and Naples are always going to be considerably, noticeably warmer. And there, Sarasota does have a downfall, that noticeably cooler than, let's say, Naples or Miami. And that is a factor, especially during the colder months. But for the rest of the year, Sarasota really becomes an absolute top destination for people visiting the Sunshine State. The few resorts on Lido Key, like these that are on the left, are some of the destinations many people choose when they come to Sarasota. I've also noticed that some people will hop from one island to the next. They'll stay one day on Siesta Key, one day on Lido Key, and then one day on Anna Maria Island, which is actually closer to Bradenton, but they're both connected through Longboat Key. And there is one resort right in the middle of Longboat Key that's very popular. Now, don't forget that from the Sarasota International Airport, it's also right on the Bradenton line, so you can hop into Sarasota or Bradenton. Most people are going to choose Sarasota since it's a lot closer. And Bradenton, of course, is somewhat of a longer drive, but you don't want to forget visiting Anna Maria Island when you visit Sarasota. Sarasota International Airport is 49 minutes from St. Petersburg Beach, which is only 10 minutes more than Tampa International Airport. And choosing this option for St. Petersburg Beach versus Tampa International means that you'll get to go on the Florida Skyway Bridge, one of the most incredible bridges in North America. And if you do stay on Lido Key, the St. Armand Circle has restaurants, ice cream shops, and lots of other great things to do like shopping. The John Ringling Causeway has a park on Bird Key, and this is a great place to unwind and enjoy the natural views of the backwaters, as well as downtown Sarasota in the distance. This has got to be one of my favorite bridges in Florida because you got all the beautiful palm trees and coconut trees on the causeway. But then once you get over the bridge, you get an incredible view of downtown Sarasota. On the causeway between downtown Sarasota and Lido Key, you have the most scenic point of the entire city, where you can quite literally see downtown Sarasota as you drive in. This 6-minute drive from Lido Key to downtown Sarasota has to be absolutely one of the most enjoyable drives in the entire state of Florida. Notice that some of the buildings have round cupolas, kind of like what you would see in Italy or in the Mediterranean. Combine that with the beautiful baby blue waters, palm trees, and it really is an experience to drive into downtown Sarasota from Lido Key. It almost feels like a slice of California or Italy. But on the islands, you'll find different vantage points that'll give you a beautiful view of downtown Sarasota. Once you are in downtown Sarasota, on the weekends, the partying downtown doesn't stop till about 2 a.m. Lots of bars, restaurants that are open late, offering parties, good food, all that under the watchful eye of the Sarasota Police Department. Sarasota is one of the safest cities you can travel to in Florida. Manatee County and Sarasota County have ridiculously low homicide rates, far below the state average, making this area in general one of the safest places you could be in the state of Florida, if not the United States. Most of the focal points of entertainment are going to have police presence late at night, which means if you like to party out late, do some nightlife, you don't have to worry about your safety. It is considerably safer than downtown Fort Myers, which has seen over the years several shootings in downtown. Tampa has had the same problem. Thankfully, Sarasota is considerably safer, and these types of crazy events are not that common here. If only people in Sarasota could figure out how to drive through a roundabout without stopping. Ah, mira ese tipo hacer. Oh, whoa. Ese tipo se atravesó, man. So yes, if only people could figure out how to use a roundabout. But generally, one of the biggest compliments that I get from people that are visiting Sarasota as I drive them on Uber through downtown is that they feel like they can let their guard down. They don't have to be worried like in other large cities. They can just kind of enjoy themselves and kind of relax and not have to worry about their safety even when they are out late at night. And there are a few places that are open till about 4 a.m., but usually anything after like 1:30 just becomes a complete crap show anywhere, of course, because that late at night, not too many good things happen. But there are a few places that are open till about 4 a.m. So if you like nightlife or just outright night crawling, it's not like Miami Beach where it's up and crazy the whole night. But there are a few bars and restaurants that do stay open pretty late. Most of them will have police presence. Sarasota is one city that you can definitely enjoy to the full if you're coming down here. The beautiful skyline, chill, relaxed vibes make this one of the greatest cities you can vacation to in Florida. And it may not be obvious at first, but thanks to the fact that now I'm doing this Uber thing, I'm really getting a great hands-on experience with people traveling to Florida and how they compare Sarasota to other cities. Usually, they're finding that Sarasota is much more practical. Sarasota is a great city for dining. The amount of restaurants here are innumerable. It really is a great city for food. Places that I would recommend is the Der Dutchman in the Amish neighborhood. Now, a lot of confusion arises because the Amish community in Sarasota is very different from the ones that you'll find up north. These are like the Florida version of Amish people. They're a little bit more on the side of freedom, so they will drive electric vehicles. They will do things that most other Amish communities will definitely look down upon. But here in Sarasota, our Amish community is a little bit on the liberal side, prompting a lot of people who are unfamiliar with the area to assume that these are Mennonites. We do have a large Mennonite community here as well, but I will tell you, no, they are not Mennonites. They are Amish people. They are just a little bit on the side of no caution. So yes, we do have a large Amish community, and they are located in the area known as Pinecraft, which is just to the outskirts of downtown, where you'll find the restaurants of the Der Dutchman and Yoder's. These are popular destinations for tourists in the Sarasota area. Will give you an experience that isn't exactly what you would connect with when you think about Florida, but it's definitely present here. When it comes to Mexican food, there are touristy Mexican food places along the water, but if you want to find some extraordinarily authentic Mexican food, the Sarasota area has a lot to offer. Rincon Toleca on US 41, just south of downtown, is a great option for authentic Mexican food. There's also La Guadalupana. They are located on Washington, just north of downtown. These are more, I wouldn't say hole in the wall because they're not, but they're just more authentic and less touristy places. But if you want to get your hands on some authentic Mexican food, it may not be as good as the Mexican food in San Antonio or Houston, but for being Florida, it's pretty good. On the intersection of Weber and Beneva is Guero's Mexican Restaurant. Now, they offer kind of a niche within Mexican food, which is regional to a part of Mexico. So it's going to have flavor profiles that you may not be used to. But again, we're talking authentic Mexican food. And another great and very popular Mexican restaurant in the Sarasota area. Now, this is a very nice, fancy, large Mexican restaurant. They're going to have live music. They're just going to have a really great atmosphere as well as a bar inside. Mi Pueblo off of Tuttle and University is the place you want to go to if you like live music and just kind of more of a lively Mexican restaurant atmosphere. Now, they are what I like to call Alabama type Mexican food. Now, Alabama Mexican food is kind of like the Alabama version of Mexican food, which is kind of more of a southern U.S. version of Mexican food. And if you like that variety of Mexican food that I call Alabama, which combines the word La Bamba with Alabama, thus Alabama. So if this is a type of Mexican food you're familiar with, like if you're from the Carolinas or Georgia or Alabama or anywhere in the South, then this is the type of place you want to go to because it's more of what you're expecting when you think about Mexican food. I coined the term Alabama. But an evening at this Mexican restaurant should be a lot of fun. As you head into southern Sarasota, you'll find an area by the name of Gulf Gate Estates. Now here there's a large concentration of Italian restaurants. So if you like the pizza, you like the deli sandwiches, you'll find real authentic Italian restaurants. And this is almost reminiscent of like going to like a small shop in Brooklyn or in Staten Island or in Tampa, where you get that real authentic Italian vibe. So if that is what you are into, then explore the southern part of Sarasota. Well, you'll also find a lot of Europeans. So whether you're enjoying something like French, Italian, or German cuisine, on this side of town, you'll find a lot of great European options. If you enjoy French cuisine, if you go a little further down into Venice, one of my favorite French restaurants is there right in downtown. Cute little place, great French cuisine. I love the beef stroganoff, and it's hard to find places that make it the way I like it. That means if you enjoy European cuisine, you'll definitely want to explore some of the places adjacent to Siesta Key in South Sarasota. Now, if people could just figure out how to use a turning lane in the Sarasota area, that will be great. And we have good cuisine, horrible drivers. Only thing more embarrassing than leaving your zipper open is leaving your gas tank lid open. So now we're heading along South Osprey Avenue through South Sarasota, heading towards Siesta Key. You'll most likely find yourself in this area if you're venturing back and forth between Siesta Key and downtown. You'll find this neighborhood has quite a quaint feel. Large trees. Sarasota has not been hit by a major hurricane in like 100 years. So you'll find that the Bradenton and Sarasota area has much larger plants than you would find in, let's say, Naples, since this area has been very fortunate to miss a lot of the most destructive hurricanes, which have done a lot of damage to the larger vegetation in places like Fort Myers and Naples. They've lost more than a few majestic banyan and large mango trees. So you'll notice that a feel of lush vegetation in this part of the city, and it really is thanks to the fact that this area has dodged so many hurricanes, something you just won't find in, let's say, Naples. Now in Fort Myers along McGregor, you have the city of palms, of course. That's what they're known for. Very majestic royal palm trees, and I think that is another beautiful drive in Florida as well. This area is old along McGregor. This is kind of like the older historic part of McGregor. But don't forget that Bradenton and Sarasota along the water do have a lot of communities like that, minus, of course, the fact that you don't have as many majestic Cuban royal palm trees. But it is still nonetheless a very lush experience to see so many large trees along the coast, something that a lot of these newer developments in Florida definitely aren't going to have. You really got to find the places that are old and that haven't been hit by so many hurricanes. And of course, you're going to notice driving through this part of Sarasota that they're building new houses everywhere. They're knocking down $1 million houses to build $5 million houses. And in some parts of Florida, they're knocking down the $5 million houses to build $20 million houses. As we know, Siesta Key Beach is named one of the best beaches in the country. And we are now about to enter Siesta Key, which lies south of downtown Sarasota. A lot of beautiful homes, very well landscaped. You'll even find a few properties that have some natural Florida limestone in the architecture, which is just a throwback touch that you're starting to see less and less of in Florida, especially after Hurricane Ian damaged a lot of the older houses in places like Naples and Fort Myers, North Fort Myers as well. There's a few limestone buildings. These buildings, when they dug up the canals, they threw all the limestone rock on top, and some people back then actually just built houses out of the limestone rock that was coming out of the ground. Many people in places like Coral Gables, Sarasota, Naples, Fort Myers, the older properties actually build walls and little gardening details out of those natural limestone rocks. You're starting to see less and less of that because it's a very labor intensive thing, and only the most creative people are actually going to find somebody willing to do that. I remember I found in Naples in a gated community, this guy was a doctor, and he actually paid somebody something to the tune of like $20,000 every 6 months to take this long project that probably took him 1.5 to 2 years to build beautiful, nice limestone formations around his pool and garden. So it's very labor intensive, and you actually need to have a license in engineering if you're going to build anything taller than 2 feet in the state of Florida. Now, I built my own containers in Naples for my mango trees. What I did was, if you're planting mango trees in Florida, you have very swampy ground, and mango tree, the roots rot if the ground is too swampy. So what I did is I elevated these 2-foot tall containers and put in dirt, and that way it would give my mango trees 2 extra feet of drainage, and that helped the roots stay dry, which meant that my mango trees were very healthy. But just little details of Florida. Of course, most people that are building these giant new houses, they're not looking at any of that old Florida vibe. They're just going in with the newer designs. But if you pay attention to the architecture in these parts of Sarasota, older neighborhoods, you'll find a few things that are reminiscent of the past. I mean, even most of these beach towns like Fort Myers Beach used to have arches made out of natural limestone rock to welcome you. But those little details are long gone. As we see here on the right, large mansions, they're forgetting about all of the old Florida little details. But if you're into beach vibes, you'll find little details like that are just kind of reminiscent of the history of this area. Alright, so the heart of Siesta Key, which I've heard a lot of people refer to it as the Village. Now, I don't know if that's like a northern thing where they call the downtown the Village, but a lot of people call this area the Village. Not sure if that's accurate or not, but that's what they call it. You'll notice tiki hut type bars and places. A lot of these places are open late at night. Now, this is about as dead as you're going to see Siesta Key. Siesta Key is usually packed to the gills. You're seeing 3% of the total people you could see here on a busy night during the winter. The vibes here are exceptional. Everybody's well-dressed, colorful clothing. We're talking Tommy Bahamas, Margaritaville, and of course those fancy top hats that people wear along the beach made out of straw. All that good beach coastal vibes. Restaurants here. There's a place right there on the left that serves really good lobster. It's nothing like what you have in the Northeast, but a lot of people from the Northeast come to Florida, and there is a lobster place there. You'll find exceptional service, good food, extraordinarily expensive as expected. But this is kind of like the heart of Siesta Key. Beautiful, colorful buildings, tiki huts, one of the most fun places you can find. And if you walk 2 blocks to the right, you have Siesta Key's beaches, some of the whitest sand that you'll find anywhere in the United States. So if you want to enjoy a nice, calm, relaxing, tropical vibe, then this is Siesta Key. And trust me, there's a reason why it's named one of the best places in the United States. It's really awesome tropical vibes. Siesta Key, here it is, and you're looking at an empty Siesta Key beach, but again, it's the summertime where there's less people. Some people don't like that. Other people really enjoy coming here during this time of year because they can enjoy everything without looking at the madness of people. This is a very neat mural right on one of the side streets in Siesta Key. You can see a girl in a thong enjoying the beach next to a tiki hut bar, coconut trees, golf carts. You get the idea. Sarasota beach vibes. Hopping back to cuisine for a minute, Florida's got a lot of great cuisine. A lot of people think that Florida doesn't have good food. Bless their heart, they're just not familiar with the state of Florida. Central Florida in the Orlando area has 1 million Puerto Ricans. Miami has 1 million Cubans spread throughout the state, but most of them in their Miami area. There's a lot of great cuisine in the state of Florida. It's just most tourists fail to recognize what good Florida food is. And let's not forget, Tampa is known for their Cuban sandwiches, which are a combination of Cuban and Italian cuisine. So there is a lot of great food in the Tampa area, but unfortunately, the vast majority of tourists are ignorant to the reality of what good Florida food is. Take an example. The Columbia restaurant in the St. Armand Circle is possibly the most famous restaurant in Sarasota. Now, I have eaten at this one here in Sarasota with my wife, and we've eaten also at the one in Tampa in Ybor City. I have to say that the Columbia restaurant would rank along the bottom 10% of Spanish Cuban restaurants. So if you're going to rank it, if you put Columbia restaurant with Cuban restaurants or other Latin restaurants, they would rank in the bottom 10%, if not 5%. It really is not good Latin food, but unfortunately, that's what tourists consider Latin or Spanish food when they come to Florida. And it's really a shame it's almost offensive to real Latin food that tourists think that the Columbia restaurant really represents what our cuisine is like. And I know it's been on magazines and it's been published everywhere. Cuban sandwiches is really the thing in the Tampa area. Now, one great place to get a good Cuban sandwich if you're up this way is stepping into St. Peter, Tampa, and going to La Segunda, which is Spanish for the second bakery. They really are incredible. Now, I understand that Cuban sandwiches are not authentically Cuban from its culinary basis is more of an American thing, but even within that realm, a lot of Americans will tell you there's a lot of variety of Cuban sandwiches in the Tampa area. One variety would be a place like Brocados. To the other extreme, more elegant and refined, you would have yourself, of course, La Segunda. But regardless, one thing is clear, and that would be that Colombia does not rank among my best Cuban sandwich places. And I know that's going to be a huge disappointment to the tourists. Again, bless your heart. You're just not familiar with real Florida food. So if you want to experience real Latin food, now we're talking Caribbean, we're talking Cuban, Puerto Rican, we're not talking Mexican. You know, Latin Caribbean food is very different from Mexican food. And unfortunately, I feel like in the Sarasota area, there's not much representation of this cuisine. Lehigh Acres, Cape Coral have a phenomenal Cuban cuisine. From Cuban bakeries to Cuban pizza, there's just a lot of good Cuban food in Southwest Florida. The city of Naples has incredible restaurants like Los Van Van. Unfortunately, the Sarasota area does not have a lot of Cuban food options. There is the Latin Quarters. Now, Latin Quarters has a restaurant right in downtown, and this is probably one of the best places to party in Sarasota. They offer great Latin cuisine, combining Cuban, Puerto Rican, and Colombian food. So you get a little bit of everything that's Caribbean. Plus, they stay up open late playing live salsa music. Parties there go on late into the night. It's one of the most happening places in downtown Sarasota right now. That's the place in downtown that plays Latin music. But when it comes to cuisine, you have the Latin Quarters in downtown. They also have another Latin Quarters closer to Bradenton. You also have Rincón Cubano. Now, this is of Honor and Fruitville, I believe. Rincón Cubano is a great representation of Cuban cuisine. Pushing more towards almost hole in the wall. In Bradenton, you have Mi Havana. They're more of a cafeteria style place. The food's there always on point, but it's not a fancy place. It's more of a locals area. There's a little Cuban place right across from the airport, but I think they've been closed lately. I'm not sure what's going on there. But regardless, Cuban and Puerto Rican cuisine define what the Florida food scene is, as well as the Tampa Cuban sandwich. And unfortunately, in the Sarasota area, it is vaguely represented. And that is a huge disappointment. Regardless, you'll find that the food scene in Sarasota is incredible, but it is lacking to some degree in the Latin food category, which is a disappointment for being in Florida. The Moat Aquarium on the north side of St. Armand's continues to be a favorite destination for people in the Sarasota area. Now, they are building a new building over here by University Mall, and that new building, when it is complete, will make an incredible addition to the suburbs or the outskirts of the metropolitan area. It is right outside of the University Mall. Great location, more easy and accessible, because honestly, the islands are way too small to have a tourist attraction that's that busy. A lot of people simply don't go because of how congested it is. Once it's over here, it will definitely be a much better tourist attraction. And architecturally, it's starting to look like a freaking masterpiece. Not only that, how fast it's going up. A lot of construction projects in this area really are moving fast. Not the case everywhere in Florida, let me tell you that right now. But some projects here are moving tremendously fast. This means that this city is constantly growing and evolving into a better version of itself. There are currently a few new resort-style buildings going up along the coast. And while there was some pushback from the locals, it's absolutely necessary to have these types of developments scattered evenly throughout the metropolitan area versus all in one single place, because that helps restaurants, it helps businesses, and it helps keep congestion down when these places are spread out like they're doing it now. So when you see these random resorts popping up along the coast, don't be mad at that. That keeps a lot of people in this area well fed and occupied. So with new structures like the awaited Moat Aquarium, as well as a few new resorts going in, we can only assume that tourism in Sarasota will only continue to get better. With free parking along the beaches for the most part, that is a great addition as well, since many beaches in Fort Myers and other areas have started to charge ridiculous fees. We can assume that they are also on the decline versus this area with its free beach parking. Unfortunately, on Anna Maria Island, Manatee County, a lot of bad decision making is taking place, and they're starting to take away a lot of the free parking and try to convert it into paid parking. That really is going to end up hurting the local economy tremendously. When beaches are packed and full of people and life, places become attractive. That's why Sarasota continues to be an amazing place to vacation. But I think Manatee County is making some bad decisions with considering charging people to park along the beaches and taking away some of those free parking spaces. That contributes greatly to people coming to these beaches and enjoying. It might just seem like a few dollars, but it's not. People actually take those type of things into consideration when they vacation. With safety, great beaches, and incredible investment in infrastructure present and coming, Sarasota continues to be probably the best place for you to vacation if you're considering seeing the state of Florida. On the southern outskirts of the city, you have beautiful gated communities that are pushing far into Venice already. Keep in mind, if you're visiting this part of Florida and you need a realtor, to reach out to me. The wife is a realtor here in Manatee and Sarasota County. You can find my contact information on the channel's main page, or you can find Katie's YouTube channel. That's my wife on my main page. Reach out to her and she'll be glad to help you If while you're down here vacation, you need to look at some real estate, you're curious, reach out to my wife, Catherine Rodriguez, on her channel. And I hope you guys have enjoyed today's video of what I'm starting to really realize is one of the best places you can vacation in Florida. And we're learning a lot thanks to my newly found side gig of Uber driving, which isn't the biggest money-making scheme, but it is putting me in contact with a lot of people, which is opening my eyes to a whole different world right in our faces that I've been missing out on because I wasn't an Uber driver. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video.